Evolution of Socratic Dialogues, Early to Middle Period. Scholarly attempts to provide relative chronological orderings of the early transitional and middle dialogues are problematical because all agree that the main dialogue of the middle period, the Republic, has several features that make dating it precisely especially difficult. As we have already said, many scholars count the first book of the Republic as among the early group of dialogues, but those who read the entire Republic will also see that the first book also provides a natural and effective introduction to the remaining books of the work. A recent study by Deborah Nails, The Dramatic Date of Plato's Republic, The Classical Journal, 93.4, 383, 396, notes several anachronisms that suggest that the process of writing, and perhaps re-editing the work, may have continued over a very long period. If this central work of the period is difficult to place into a specific context, there can be no great assurance in positioning any other works relative to this one. Nonetheless, it does not take especially careful study of the transitional and middle period dialogues to notice clear differences in style and philosophical content from the early dialogues. The most obvious change is the way in which Plato seems to characterize Socrates. In the early dialogues, we find Socrates simply asking questions, exposing his interlocutor's confusions, all the while professing his own inability to shed any positive light on the subject, whereas in the middle period dialogues, Socrates suddenly emerges as a kind of positive expert, willing to affirm and defend his own theories about many important subjects. In the early dialogues, moreover, Socrates discusses mainly ethical subjects with his interlocutors, with some related religious, methodological, and epistemological views scattered within the primarily ethical discussions. In the middle period, Plato's Socrates' interests expand outward into nearly every area of inquiry known to humankind. The philosophical positions Socrates advances in these dialogues are vastly more systematical, including broad theoretical inquiries into the connections between language and reality, in the Cratylus, knowledge and explanation, in the Phaedo and Republic, books Phi 7. Unlike the Socrates of the early period, who was the wisest of men only because he recognized the full extent of his own ignorance, the Socrates of the middle period acknowledges the possibility of infallible human knowledge, especially in the famous similes of light, the simile of the sun and good, and the simile of the divided line in Book 6, and the parable of the cave in Book 7 of the Republic. And this becomes possible in virtue of a special sort of cognitive contact with the forms or ideas, idei, which exist in a suprasensible realm available only to thought. This theory of forms, introduced and explained in various contexts in each of the middle period dialogues, is perhaps the single best known and most definitive aspect of what has come to be known as Platonism.